Live and on tape from the heart of the Silicon Valley. I'm Dave DeBon. Thanks so much for tuning in to today's House of Takes pod. We're trying a midday show, just experimenting, if you will, with a bunch of different things here on our new channel as we strive to hit a whopping 700 subscribers. So if you have a chance and you're watching this, we'd love to have you subscribe to the show. All right, a big show for you. We're going to get into LeBron James not retiring. Pat McAfee hosts the ESPYs. James Harden wants to throw a white party in Los Angeles and play with the Los Angeles Clippers. Saquon Barkley, apparently is threatening to hold out at least a single football game if he doesn't get more money than the $10.1 million the Giants are offering him for that franchise tag. And I've got some great video for you today about Giannis telegraphing passes. Absolutely priceless. It's from the Paul George podcast, and it's with Tyrese Halliburton. If we have time, we might even get into the cat pervert, which is the best thing I've seen all day so far. Once again, I am Dave DeBaugh coming to you from the Silicon Valley, and welcome to the House of Takes pod. All right, where should we begin today? Why don't we begin with the fact that LeBron James has made the big announcement last night on the ESPYs that LeBron is not going to retire from the National Basketball Association. I don't know about you, but that was just absolutely shocking to hear that news that LeBron James has decided to return to the association. It was almost a for the love of the game thing. I'd play the video, but there's a rights issue, so we won't be playing any of the ESPYs video today. That being said, I think this didn't surprise anybody, especially when you look at all the offseason moves the Los Angeles Lakers had made. I would have given it about a 0.5% chance that LeBron James actually retired. And if that were going to happen, there would have probably had to have been some sort of major injury that we were all unaware of. All right. So last night, Pat McAfee showed up as the host of ESPN's ESPYs. He was actually announced as ESPN's Pat McAfee. Turn out the lights, North America. The ride is over for Pat McAfee's independence, if you will. Not that $120 million with the FanDuel network made him totally independent. That being said, I think we all agree Pat McAfee has been a trailblazer in the world of sports, especially on YouTube, and has done an absolutely fantastic job to this point. Now, you might not know that the First Take show gets about 400,000 viewers a day. And the Pat McAfee show, gets some really great ratings, especially on Aaron Rodgers Tuesdays. Being able to maybe double up on what Pat does with, traditional television and what he can continue to do on YouTube certainly made a lot of sense for ESPN. With regards to his show opening, I thought, Pat did a really nice job, and you could see how refined Pat McAfee is getting. I mean, he has the problem saying champions, but other than that, I thought he did a fantastic job. The writer's strike still going on, so getting any, comedians and other style hosts apparently was going to be a difficult thing for ESPN to pull off at this point. So they went ahead and went with Pat McAfee, who also did a nice job ripping on Skip Bayless, who absolutely deserved it for his DeMar Hamlin tweet. And he had some good fun there. So I thought it was really a fantastic job by Pat McAfee. They could have actually used him a little bit more. a long broadcast. Let me just say it took me into the late night last night to wrap that baby up. All right. So moving on. Now, the other really interesting topic of the day is James Harden's decision that he wants to actually go ahead and leave the Philadelphia 76ers. This was reiterated earlier in the day. There were several legitimate sports reports that came out about this. So James Harden wants to move on to the Los Angeles Clippers. Well, will he actually make that happen, or will the Philadelphia 76ers find a way to send him to the National Basketball Association version of Siberia, which at this point I think would be like the Orlando Magic? Look, James Harden wants out of Philly. I don't think James Harden has any desire to play for Nick Nurse. I think that's a big part of this, to be frank. So with James Harden looking to move to Los Angeles to throw some white parties there, I think it should be an interesting time for the Philadelphia 76ers to actually think about it. You know, like, how are they, the Philadelphia 76ers, actually going to get something back for James Harden that is significant? Now, last night, the Boston Celtics officially announced that Porzingis had signed a 2-year contract extension worth $60 million. This whole thing with James Harden's just absolutely ridiculous, that he's looking to leave Joel Embiid. I don't think James Harden really cares about a National Basketball Association championship. I think James Harden doesn't like the winter. I think that if we can conclude anything, it is that James Harden is not a cold weather person. James Harden wants to be in the sun. Look, if James Harden wasn't able to force himself to the Los Angeles Clippers, he'd certainly try to force himself to the Miami Heat. And I don't think Pat Riley is falling for it, at least not at that price tag, especially because you'd have to give up some players, and then there's no guarantee that James Harden would stick with your team in the first place. So the James Harden enigma certainly continues to persist as a major issue for the Philadelphia 76ers. Once again, the reports today have James Harden looking to force his way all the way to the Los Angeles Clippers. I joke, I kid about James Harden, but like, if that happens, the first night that he has available where he's not at a club, because there's a lot of great clubs in Los Angeles, he's going to go create his own version of a white party with some of his super rich friends. All right. So moving on from that story, a couple days ago, the podcast P, which is Paul George's podcast, which I think is really is quickly become one of my favorite athletic-led podcasts. I think Paul George is just a natural for doing podcasts. He's a natural at doing interviews. One of the things I love most about Paul George is he actually likes to joke around and kid around. Hey, listen, I've got a Tyrese Halliburton Paul George video for you here. It's only like 20 seconds, so I'll just go ahead and play this.
People in there, you go to dunk, I just
don't like. I don't like his no look. That's the only thing I don't like. His no look, he be like.
Oh, I be hit that. I was special at that right there.
Got that.
But yeah, Giannis be like.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely fantastic. I love that podcast. If you haven't had a chance to check it out yet, you should absolutely do it. Some other good things from this week's episode as well. Maybe we'll cover them on another day. Tyrese Halliburton's just a really likable player in the National Basketball Association. And we know that he got his big bag of cash, and I think he absolutely has earned it. You know, a lot of times trades go down in the National Basketball Association, and at the time a trade goes down, it looks like one team's going to win and another team's not going to win. And then when we revisit that trade a year later or 2 years later, then we usually end up saying, you know, one of the teams really won. It's really rare in a trade in the National Basketball Association, as I'm losing my voice here, that two teams actually win in a trade. And that's exactly what happened with Tyrese Halliburton. All right. So a little earlier in the show, we talked about Pat McAfee and his ESPYs opening. Now, because of rights issues, I am not able to actually use that on the podcast, at least today. But I do have some video for you, North America. I wouldn't leave you hanging. That's not the kind of guy I am. I've got some Pat McAfee video for you from the golf course up in beautiful North Lake Tahoe.
Another birdie, about 25-foot putt or so. What do you think?
Yeah, things are looking up with this group. They're that fucking guy right there played hockey and lacrosse. I kind of agree with that, actually. But on the flip side, a 25-foot right to left downhill by Tanner, the 23-year-old, who's a caddy by trade.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, our team might win this thing in spite of me hammering 5 shots of tequila already and on my second Jack and diet.
What?
Have you been having any cocktails?
I've had a cocktail or two. I'm trying to pace myself a little bit because out here in the thin air, they go down very quickly.
Yeah, that's what I've been learning. This is really delightful.
Oh, my God.
A lot of golf left, though. Let's finish this thing off.
Oh, yeah. There you have it. The boys are hot right now. Let's keep it rolling.
Okay. So that's a big American Century celebrity classic golf tournament that takes place every year in Tahoe. It also just leads up to the start of National Football League training camps, which some of them do kick off next week. Today was like a practice round of some sort. The actual tournament begins on Friday, runs Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and can be viewed on, I think, Peacock as well as NBC. Always a great show, always fun to watch celebrities and athletes attempt to play golf. That being said, once again, you know, if you look back at the job that Pat did on the ESPYs last night, it almost seemed as if he had been sort of like thrown into it, like 48 hours before. And I don't know this, but it almost felt like 48 hours before the actual ESPYs, he was told he was hosting. But I thought he did once again a really good job. All right, topics on today's show. LeBron James is, of course, not retiring. Pat McAfee hosted the ESPYs, and I had some thoughts on that. James Harden is trying to force his way to several clubs in Los Angeles, including the Clippers. And Saquon Barkley is not at all happy with the New York Football Giants. Now, when we talk about Saquon Barkley and we talk about his statistics and how valuable he is to that, it's hard to believe, $40 million plus man and one Daniel Jones. It is true. Now, I love running backs in the National Football League. I hate how devalued running backs have become. And when you think about the value of a Dalvin Cook to the Minnesota Vikings and the value of a Saquon Barkley to the New York Football Giants, you can't help but think they are underpaid. The problem with that is a quarterback will last, 10 to 15 years in the National Football League. And the average length of a running back in the National Football League used to be about 4.5 or 5 years. Throughout his career to this point, Saquon Barkley has actually made $38 million. He's put $38 million in the bank. That's not including any of the off the field things that he may or may not have made any money off of. His NFL tag that the Giants put on him is for $10.1 million. Now, the best running back in the National Football League right now is probably Christian McCaffrey. On paper, Christian McCaffrey, because remember, there's signing bonuses and salary games that GMs play with when money hits the cap. That being said, all things equal, Christian McCaffrey for this upcoming season will make $16 million, despite the fact that only 4 of it actually goes against the San Francisco 49ers salary cap this year. So you've got Christian McCaffrey, right, making $16 million a year. And then you have the Giants offering Saquon Barkley 10.1. And you look at their stats, and while McCaffrey has more receptions, it is pretty close. They are pretty close from a statistical standpoint. So the question really has to be, is there a $6 million difference between Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey? And if you ask Boomer Esiason, who yesterday came out with a statement, and in Boomer Esiason's statement, he said that he thinks by Monday, which is when there's a deadline for this, by Monday, he thinks Saquon Barkley is going to get a $14 million year deal. Do I think Saquon Barkley is worth $14 million a year for the New York Football Giants this coming season? Yes. Now, remember, Saquon's been in the league for, I think, 5 years now. He's had 2 good seasons, and then he's had a couple other seasons of being injured. Saquon Barkley clearly, to me, is one of the top running backs in the NFC. The problem with paying running backs, though, is their careers do not last a long time. Saquon Barkley, and I like to kid about NBA players being on the backside of career mountain skiing down the hill. We all knew that Matt Ryan, a quarterback in the National Football League, had been on the backside of that career mountain for at least 3 years. It took the Atlanta Falcons an extra 2 years to figure it out. And for some reason, the Indianapolis Colts actually thought he had something left. A year ago, I was like, he does not have anything left. It was absolutely ridiculous. So Saquon Barkley wants a long-term contract. The Giants should do the right thing here and not give him a long-term contract. Maybe they give him a 2-year contract with the second year being an option for the actual Giants themselves. Do I think, once again, Saquon is worth an extra $4 million a year this year to help out Daniel Jones at quarterback? Absolutely. I think the Giants should get this done. I would hate to see Saquon end up in some world where he's actually holding out for some strange, bizarre reason. All right. So it has been we've covered a lot on this show. I've got a video which absolutely has nothing to do with sports that I'm going to play for you now that I hunted down earlier today. Funniest thing I've seen all day. I'm not going to play the whole thing. We'll play about 30 seconds of it. Here it goes.
Keeping it in your
No,
yard,
I'm not.
and it's our cat.
You understand?
Our cat.
I'm not even in my yard right now. What am I doing? The gate's open.
Come on.
Hard.
You're unreasonable people. You're holding our cat.
How? I'm not even in there. I want you to explain how.
If you would go in your yard and say, Mercury, go home. Don't come in our yard anymore.
She
They
will not
want you
listen.
to.
She's a cat. She doesn't speak English.
Oh, really? This doesn't mean go home?
No.
Huh?
Hand
Huh?
signals don't mean anything. It's a cat, dude.
Really? Okay. All right. Well, we'll have the police department figure it out.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Great idea.
All right. Listen. No. So the cat doesn't eat and drink anything over there, right?
No.
Oh, no. Never. Right? No, never.
No.
No, never.
Never. Yeah, never.
Yeah, you cat pervert.
Oh my God, you guys are absent.
I've done nothing to.
I mean, it's unbelievable. The guy's actually screaming cat pervert. Look, it goes on for like another 45 seconds of him screaming cat pervert the whole time. Just absolutely ridiculous. All right, if you're new to the House of Takes, we are a new channel. We're closing in on 700 subscribers. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe yet, please go ahead and subscribe to the show. LeBron's not retiring. Pat McAfee hosted the ESPYs. James Harden wants to end up with the Clippers, and Saquon Barkley wants more cash and probably deserves it from the New York Football Giants. And we also covered a little bit of a podcast snippet with Tyrese Halliburton and Paul George a little bit earlier. All right, that is it for this episode of the House of Takes pod. I want to thank you all for tuning in. If you're catching this live, I appreciate it. Or if you're catching it on tape a little bit later as well. For the House of Takes pod, I am Dave DeBaugh, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing day.